So can a mortgage broker give you financial advice? What can they offer you? What kind of advice can they give? What advice should you not be listening to from that mortgage broker? I'll tell you from my own experience as a mortgage broker, there's some advice that you should be listening to, but a lot of advice you should probably just take with a grain of salt. And here is the difference. All right, so like I mentioned, I actually used to be a mortgage broker myself, especially back in the early 2000s, early to mid 2000s. I'll tell you, in the mid 2000s, anybody could be a mortgage broker. It was so easy. I remember that was just recently I had to pass a test to become a mortgage broker. Now, when I was a mortgage broker, of course, people had questions because it wasn't just about offering a mortgage, right? But what kind of mortgage? Should I do the 30-year mortgage? Should I do a 15-year mortgage? Should I do this option arm? Should I do this 5-year fixed mortgage or this or that? By the way, what about my debts? Should I do a cash out refinance of my mortgage and whatnot? And I'll tell you that it's very common for mortgage brokers to get asked a lot of questions, more around their debt than anything. Now, would I ever ask questions about investments? Well, yeah, because I had an investment license at the time too. However, most of the part, I never see mortgage brokers getting asked like, hey, should I do this investment or not? Now, it might be an investment property they might ask them about. Hey, is this a good deal or not? Should I wait? But I'll tell you just this. For a mortgage broker, keep them focused on the mortgage. But as a bonus, I'll say this. If the mortgage broker understands how to create wealth, understands the importance of cash flow, having enough cash flow coming in and out, then that advice can actually spill over into some other areas too. One of my good old friends that I've referred many, many times as a mortgage broker, the one reason I loved referring to him as a mortgage broker is because he could understand the cash flow mentality that I had. Because understand that when I look at a mortgage, and now I'm no longer a mortgage broker, just so you're aware, I dropped those licenses about 2007 or 8. But when I was a mortgage broker, of course, I'm offering these suites of options. But what was nice is because I had that experience of able to see like investing in a different light. I wasn't just trying to go for the lowest interest rate. Often I was trying to figure out what would give me the lowest payment. Now, of course, if I could get a fixed interest rate and the lowest payment, that was ideal. But I'll tell you that there's many mortgage brokers that if they get stuck in the mentality, and you can find out by asking them different questions about their own beliefs about debt, for example. You know, they think debt's evil. If they think debt's evil, they might be of the mentality to pay off your mortgage as fast as possible. What's the danger of that? Well, when I tried to do that myself, when I was a mortgage broker, and I tried to pay down my debt as fast as I could, thinking that I can always just cash out money later if I had to, here was the problem. When the market turned in 2007, and then also in 2008, I watched the equity of my property disappear. All that extra money I put into my house went bye-bye, right? It was gone, just like it was horrible. And so it put me in a lot of stress, put my family in a lot of stress because I thought that could be money I could pull out in case of emergencies. It wasn't. It was locked up. And because it was locked up, because the whole mortgage industry and the banking industry was getting tight on their lending, guess what? They weren't lending out as much money anymore and the property prices came plummeting. As a result, that's why I lost all that equity. I would have been better off not paying extra to my mortgage. So when I talk to mortgage brokers, and I'm trying to understand their perspective, especially when they're trying to work with my clients, and it's possible I know some of you guys might be mortgage brokers, maybe working with my clients right now, but if that's the case, I want them to have this more holistic approach, this holistic view of everything, and looking at their situation from a standpoint of what creates freedom from having more cash flow. What do I mean by cash flow? I don't just mean passive income. I mean that your income's up here, your expenses are down here. Not because you're living dirt cheap out of a cardboard box, but because you get those expenses under control, including your mortgage payment. Instead of trying to get a high payment, you try to keep those payments lower, right? Even included too, if we're talking about doing a cash out refinance, do we pay off debt or not? And so some of the best mortgage brokers I've worked with understand that viewpoint of how do we make sure we put them in the best cash position possible? How do we lower their debt to income ratio, as they call it, right? Where their debt payments, their required debt payments are much lower. They can always pay extra to a mortgage, but they don't have to. And good mortgage brokers get this. They understand it. They understand the value that your dollars work better in your control than trying to give it back to the bank by paying off that loan faster, especially when it's a low interest loan like a mortgage. So another example is this, is I had a client where I said, listen, you can actually go do a cash out refinance and free up, like $3,800 a month. Now, some mortgage brokers say, well, no, don't do that because you're not actually paying off your debt. You're just moving your debt from here into your home. Don't do that. Well, obviously that mortgage broker doesn't understand the value of cash flow. that having more than enough money to be able to weather storms, especially if there's a loss of income, especially if the expenses go up unexpectedly, you're safe because you're able to keep those expenses down. Freeing up $3,800 a month, in my opinion, is a no-brainer. And I've had so many clients, so many times, free up anywhere from a few $100s a month to thousands a month by refinancing their mortgage, sometimes consolidating their debt into that home, into that one mortgage. And now some people will tell you, especially a mortgage broker, or other people say, oh, but you just put them out 30 more years. What if they were 10 years away from paying off their home? Who cares? It's still the same balance. Now, they have no more debt, nor do they have any less debt, but their cash flow is better. They're in a healthier cash position. And you know what's interesting about that? Is that even banks like that. Banks love it when you're in a healthier cash position where your payments are lower. You know, I had a client that had perfect credit, try to get his mortgage into a 10-year mortgage, and the bank denied him. Why? Because I said, well, that payment's too high compared to the income that you have. You shouldn't be doing that high. He's like, but I want to pay off my debt. I'll pay you back faster. They said, no, we won't do it. Even though you have an 800 plus credit score, we won't do it. And that's where, if you understand mortgage brokers, see, mortgage brokers are often pawns, like I was at one point. I was telling people, pay off your mortgage fast. Until I understand about investing and how to get your money working harder for you, I realized, no, it's about the cash flow. Maybe I want to get that money out. Maybe I want to take the money out and invest it to create more income as well, not just pay off debt. But what if I can get more money out of that property to then use that to invest, and maybe I can even have the passive income pay for my mortgage payment. For example, I had a client where they were paid about $2,000 a month on a mortgage. But I told them, I said, listen, based on what you're doing right now, you can actually get another $100,000 out of this mortgage here, and we can actually lower your payment to $1,800 a month. So you free up $200 a month, and you get $100,000. Then you can invest. Anything you make off the investment, it's free. And so if that investment pays you $1,000 a month at $100,000, guess what? Now you're making $1,200 a month on an $1,800 a month mortgage now. Now you really only have essentially this $600 net mortgage payment, where before you were paying $2,000 a month total. So you just saved yourself right there $1,400 a month. You're in a healthier cash position. That is the kind of thing I look for. So can mortgage brokers give financial advice? Yes and no, right? But ideally, if they have that perspective, like a bigger perspective than just being a loan officer, if they can be somewhere bigger where they're like, no, I'm an investor too, I'm a business owner, I understand this, I know how the money game works, then they become a much bigger asset in your life because they might be able to give you better options than what the typical mortgage broker will give you. All right, so we already know they can give advice, but be careful. Make sure they don't give you investment advice though. Be aware of that. They're not investment advisors. Be aware of what they're doing in their own life, and also even if they challenge you on certain stuff, maybe they don't understand what you know, just take it with a grain of salt or just put it on a shelf, say thank you for that. I appreciate your opinion. And then do what you think is right. By the way, if you want better investment advice, go for those that are actual investors. Now, if this mortgage broker is not an investor, then again, take it with a grain of salt, listen to people that actually are. By the way, on my channel, we bring on people, including mortgage brokers, that do actually give good advice and really sound judgment when it comes to how do you use loans appropriately. So I'd recommend follow our Money Ripples podcast because we will have those people from time to time, as well as other investors and people where you can get a much bigger picture of financial advice than just that narrow lens that some mortgage brokers get. So that's what I recommend you do. Go subscribe to this Money Ripples channel and start watching our podcast every Wednesday and Friday.